This video is to help you with pausing, which should be the third speech for public speaking semester 1. I usually have this made up. So this is my calendar and it tells an overview of what I'll do every day for each part of the week. It's adjustable, but it does go slowly, so oftentimes it's pretty accurate. So I start on the first day. I have the show and tell speech. We follow the book almost exactly because it's a good way to help students who are not very good at understanding English to be able to see it in the book before they do it. I almost always do a practice speech or an example speech before we go into the book. So they get to see my speech and then we go through what's in the chapter. So I start with page 29, which is just the overview, and it shows them what their goals are. I also show them their rubric. So every day we study, I put up the rubric for what their speech will be about. So I'll write on the board, posture and eye contact, 2 points. And then I'll tell them what that means, that I'm looking for 3 people they have to look at. And they need to have good feet, good shoulders, good hands, good head to get all the points for posture and eye contact. And then I go through each one of these, but I don't talk about them too much because we will cover them every day that we study. So chapter 3 is about pausing, and it's really important that we show them 3 parts to pausing. So there are 3 parts that I'm looking for when I teach and when we practice and then when they perform. So the 3 parts are, first I want to hear the pause, and the pause is a stop. It should be 1 to 3 seconds long, and you don't want it to be too long. So the way I do that is a pause. If you start with your hand up and you go down, it should be 1, 2, 3. So if when they're talking and they're practicing, they can read their speech, it was 930 feet long. So I make them do it with me. First I show them my pause, and then I have a sentence on the board. Usually I'll take one from my example speech. So if my example speech, the first sentence is, "This is my movie called Casablanca." I make them write in where the pause is. So we pause before new words, hard words, or new information. Because pauses are to help the people who are listening even more than the people who are speaking. So public speaking actually isn't about the person talking, it's about the people listening. We want to make it as easy to understand as possible. Okay, so here's where I wrote my pause, and that's the second thing I make my students do. I need to see their hand do the pause, I need to see the pause written in, and then I need to hear it. And a lot of times people think they're pausing or they think they've paused long enough and they haven't. So the first time I read the sentence, no pause. This is my movie called Casablanca. Sorry, I had a pause in there. This is my movie called Casablanca. And then I start with my hand up and I say, this is my movie called Casablanca. And then I make the students do the same thing. We read it together with our hands in the air. This is my movie called Casablanca. We can move the pause to before called or before Casablanca, and I let them know that that's their style. There actually isn't a rule. So they get to choose where they want it. There are some places that aren't great to put it, but again, it's still style. So this is especially important for our next chapter. So in chapter 4, it's storytelling, and we add in the other 2 kinds of emphasis, which are stretching and stressing. They are the same thing. I need to see it written on the piece of paper, I need to see their hands do the action, and I need to hear their voice. Eventually we can take away the hands, but we can't do that until they actually do it, because oftentimes they think they're doing it and they're not. So I need to have the confirmation of what they're thinking, so they show me with their hands, and what their voice is actually doing. So we'll do 2 more examples, and then I will end this video. So for this one, it wasn't shown until 1943. I always ask my students, where do you think we should put the pause? And most often they'll tell me before the number, especially because numbers are hard to hear when somebody's talking. So we like to have the pause before, so we're ready to hear the words. It wasn't shown until 1943. I also let them know there could be another possibility. It wasn't shown until 1943. So wasn't, the not, is almost always new information, meaning there's a sentence before that's different. So I let them choose, and then I'll go ahead and I'll read it, and they'll have to tell me which pause did I use. So they get to hear it even if they can't produce it. And then here is an easier version. It was made in 1941. And then I'll ask a student to come up and write where the pause is. And then I'll ask the whole class to read it to me, and we'll make sure it's correct using our hands. So we practice that almost 3 days. I introduce it, and then we practice it one day, and then on the day before their speech, they should be practicing with their hand. So I can see, hear, and check to make sure it's correct. So the final thing about pausing is we pause for 3 reasons, or 3 main reasons. The first reason we pause is for understanding. So we always pause before things that are hard or important, so the students or the audience can understand. The second reason we pause is because it shows confidence. People who speak very fast are often nervous, or they don't care about their audience. So when you pause, and you pause long enough, it shows that you're not afraid to be up front. And the third reason we pause is we pause for feeling or emotion. When we pause for emotion, it actually calms the audience. When you speak very fast, it makes people nervous. So we work on pausing for those 3 reasons. The most important one right now is for understanding. Pausing before facts, pausing before hard words, pausing before new information. So I hope this is helpful, and you can always come see me later.